I like that my hair stands up on end. I just wrote this poem, just finished it. It is entitled, Let's Revisit Our Issues Sooner Than Later. We can do that at the Hairy Buffalo. That's another story. Want to eat one of those frozen burritos in the freezer? A close friend is visiting me later today, and I am happy. We must defrost time by closing our eyes and wishing away the depression. If only it were that easy. As I put off peeing because I'm too lazy to stand up, I trusted in you, and that was part of my undoing. That and my inability to reconcile with the monsters taking refuge under my sleeping bag. I ate the burrito and some chocolate, and now I feel like shit, and I wish I had some self-control. The music is putting me in a trance, which is exactly what I need at this inopportune time. I so wanted to kiss her tummy, but figured that would be like when Hitler invaded Poland. Her wanton eyes begged me to look away, and I tried, but failed in my inability to be coy or tactful. The terrorists, they haven't changed a thing, other than turning up the fear to 11 and making Spinal Tap an even better movie than it actually was. Rob Reiner jumped the shark around the time of The Princess Bride, and if you don't believe me, look into the eyes of Fonzie when he crashed into Arnold's chicken stand. Shows like Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley kept me stationary when everything around me was moving at the speed of light. Going to finally give into my bladder and take a piss before I do some real damage. I remember living in that tower at Milo, pushing back on the born-again Christians and reformed dog walkers. I wrote about my bathroom habits then, too, as well as Elvis and any passing fancy that blew up my brain, like pop rocks or shagging Lola at the Copacabana. Just stuck my finger straight up my ass. It helped with the itching and refocused my wandering mind. Let's lose each other in the pulverized missteps of another birthday spent alone, contemplating suicide or taking a vacation to the other side of the world. This person moved in upstairs and they just, the way they walk, it's like they're just pounding on the floor, and it is so fucking annoying. I don't know how anybody would need to walk that heavy. I just don't get it. This poem is entitled Souls. We are naked. We are sunsets. We are seers. I held this poem underwater. It yapped like a pedigree beagle. Water torture is not for patriots, mavericks, or pussies. We are burning. We are Halley's Comet. We are storytellers. I held this poem up to the light. It shined brighter than any supernova. Rainbows are for leprechauns, munchkins, and torch singers. We are live wires. We are lightning in a bottle. We are stigmata. Soule. You write your soul, but still No one seems to get you. They make fun of you or ignore you completely. It's like high school all over again, and no one wants to sit with you at lunch. Most of the time, I don't have a clue what I'm talking about, and for great intellects, I'd much rather put a sock in it than try and make sense out of the equation my brain is sorting out. I like donuts with chocolate frosting and white cream, and no, that's not a euphemism. If I've been a good boy, I don't see why I can't have my cake and eat it too, because we all deserve to live a little, even if we're without a job and living on someone else's dime. You paint your own tyranny of the empty room, but no one seems to be paying any attention. They go on and on about the next big thing, when the next big thing is you. And that has been true from the moment you were created and started painting with your fingers. We're not celebrity artists. We're in it for the long haul. No matter how many beguiling martyrs are forsaken and charming cult leaders go up in smoke. Most of the time, I'm flat broke, on my back trying to find someone to converse with, while watching one miserable television show after another, because I find a short attention span more interesting than a long vacation abroad. I have a taste for chicken McNuggets, even though when going to McDonald's today, I instead ordered 2 Filet-O-Fish sandwiches. I thought about ordering a McFlurry with Oreo cookies when leaving, but it was so cold outside, I decided against it. Junk food maintains me, like phone sex sustains me. Because to be perfectly honest, I am finding it far easier to turn the next phrase than to learn a new magic trick. I'm sorry for continually interrupting you when we're on the phone, Joni. There's no excuse for my being so rude. It's just knowing you is better than any drug I have ever ingested. You feed my soul, and like Oliver Twist, please, sir, I want some more. Your fairy heart shines a light on my warlock psyche, reminding me why I'm still pressing down these keys, and singing completely off key. Another newer poem. Read this for Leonard Cohen and for Dan Clute. I lit a green candle. Saw an owl this morning. I believe it was my mother watching over me. I have never seen anything more majestic or regal in my life. Lit a green candle hoping it would relieve my stress. Not sure if it did a damn thing, but looking into the flame, it did soothe me. Eating pizzelles and drinking coffee. Avoiding sleep like the Black Death. Not sure if you're aware of this, but you are my best friend. Been true since Kalamazoo and the Mulberries and Coleman stove incident. You light a fire inside of me that will never be extinguished through conventional means. Fighting through a jungle of depression with a machete in my Planet Waves intellect, it doesn't help to be one of the chosen. Because who you know isn't going to get you special dispensation. no matter how many strings are pulled from on high. In the blink of a cloudy, all-knowing eye, my life gave up its ghost and didn't inform me my days were numbered. Saw an owl this morning. Googled if seeing an owl was a good or bad omen and discovered it can be both, depending on which end of the sword you're holding. I choose to believe only good things at this time because all the negativity in the world will not stop me from moving forward. Plus, my mother was very wise and in her own way, very protective of me. Peacefully coexist. Watching strange weather and eating chocolate Oreos. I'm waking up to the very real possibility I'm slipping away. The truth hits me like waves upon the craggy rocks. I cannot escape these impenetrable feelings that I've wronged myself in some way. I stopped reading my horoscope because I was tired of the future staring me in the face. The pygmy goat across the hall kept me awake morning, noon, and night with its crying. I treasured the time we spent together until our treasure chest became an albatross around both of our necks. I wore a big cross. I traveled down south like a pseudo-Gentile in search of something concrete, or at the very least solid enough to keep my monsters at bay. You wore a wig hat, and you acted all high and mighty like a servant of God or music critic. After licking the chocolate off my fingers, I took a sip of root beer and I turned down the thermostat. Let's remember who we are, and that when times are tough, it's best to hunker down like a reformed saint. Politicians can all bite me for how little civic duty any of them are actually feeling. We peacefully coexist, or we don't. It's just that simple once everything comes out in the wash. I trusted you until I noticed the knife you had so ruefully stuck in my back. What's the point of holding a grudge when it will only make you weaker and more susceptible to further attacks? This loneliness haunts me like a ghost with no recompense, and I'm starting to believe this human stain won't dissipate, no matter how much water I pour onto my raging inferno soul. Watching from across the room as I tear myself into the littlest pieces and parts. There's no coming back from this permanent darkness, not when your brain refuses to shut off, even for just an hour or two. Let's cut the chit-chat and stop pretending the investment we've made into each other wasn't real or worth its weight in gold. Pick the words that best represent you and leave the rest to chance. Making it up while you go along is about the only life plan left that makes any sense. Turn down the heat and cool yourself off in the unbearable lightness of your own being. Poet liars. There are those who call themselves poets when nothing could be further from the truth. They hardly scratch the surface and don't know what it means to really burn. There are no confessions in academia, only books and theorems and loose nukes. And the pseudo street poets are no better, trading in their souls for arcane carp. A muse reveals nothing if your mirror is gray and cloudy. Priding yourself on being a fugitive makes no inroads if your third eye is insolvent. And once upon a time means zip if you refuse to leave your bubble and be real. Poet liars are a dime a dozen as the 12 gates to the city lead us astray. And I'm sick and tired of hiding my light under a bushel of average thoughts. I burn like a Roman candle as I sacrifice everything to sharpen my writing chops. Realizations don't dampen the hurt. Realized yesterday I hadn't written a poem in days, and that's what was causing this blondness. Creativity is a helping hand that pulls me out of my own wreckage and doesn't believe in collateral damage, but does believe in second chances. Creativity is the only Godhead I pray to on a reoccurring basis. And people let you down because they're people. And people let you down because they owe you absolutely nothing. And too many people will stab you in the back while smiling to your face and offering you niblets of empty encouragement. Some people will never amount to anything, especially when the sum of their parts are in another mass grave where people drank the Kool-Aid because it was easier than listening to their own hearts and brains. And realizations don't dampen the hurt, but it does make it easier to remember that you are a survivor and were never actually a victim, no matter what the cave drawings depict and the writings on the wall state so explicitly. Picked up a dictionary and I hit myself in the face to remind myself how much words can hurt when not used correctly. I am an incorrect poet. And if you don't like it, jump out of the car right now before I hit the gas and your chances of a speedy recovery go up in a purple haze of car exhaust and rusted out excuses. I am an incorrect poet, and creativity will deliver me to the promised land come hell or high water. It's time to rise again and realize we're the chosen when we choose right over might and start believing in ourselves again. Remember the way things used to be. No. Remember first impressions and don't allow them to lock you into a mindset that grinds everything and everyone into the pieces and parts of a larger and more ineffective machine. Yes. I'm not here to tell you anything you don't already know. I'm not a life coach or some masturbatory guru who gets off on watching his or her followers consume each other on a molecular level. We had plenty of that when we were all living in a yellow submarine, and I would like to think we've moved past that kind of prehistoric belief system. I don't need nor want for you to think of me as a poet but instead as a parser of words. Because statistics don't mean a fucking thing if you don't have enough willpower to get up and go when an evil doer enters the room and tries to co-op your soul. Remember what it felt like to hold a pen or pencil in your hand, and how liking something was a personal triumph and not just another public expression of your selfie love for a society that went bust long before the gold rush was the new kid in town. Yes, I want you to get off my lawn, and while you're at it, get off my planet. Until you admit what the white man did to the Native Americans is an unforgivable act. Period. End of story. Game over. You have no more pinballs left, and I'm tired of your revolving door politics. Some people make history while others rely upon histrionic excuses to get them through the next 500 years or more with hardly a scratch to their Taj Mahal souls. Let's try again to go the distance. And while we are at it, I promise not to remind you of all the times I did not kill you for being such an incredible asshole. Yes. Poetessa. I wonder if she was tempted in the least little bit to call after I gave her my cell number. We could talk about nothing and just listen to the other one breathe. We could talk about everything, including the love, like some raven at our window with a broken wing. I stole part of that last line, but I'm sure he'll understand and not be too miffed with my poetic theft. Repurposing's all the rage in these days of bird flu and designer ice cream that will kill you if you just give it half a chance. It's a slippery slope, believing in your heart of hearts that you're an artist, when in your everyday life you refuse to allow anything to take seed and grow like the tallest tree or shortest poet. I wonder where she came out. Of all of a sudden. I swear she appeared when my back was turned, and like an orphan with his gun, I stood there crying like a fire in the sun. I've done it again. Repurposed one of the traveling troubadour's great lines. Of course, who knows where he may have picked it up at, because isn't creating just like a game of pick-up sticks? The sticks in this case are red-hot pokers, and we are all looking to leave our brand on someone else's unsuspecting cattle. I was at a loss for words when I cleared when I cleared my throat and accepted a s'more from a man who never fails to make me smile and feel good about myself. Thank you, Bill Cohen. I thought the s'more would be sickening sweet, but because he used bittersweet chocolate, I found myself wanting another, but too shy to ask for a second one. I am reading her poem as I hold my breath and discover myself feeling like Henry Limpet with all his daydreams of being a fish locked down so tightly into my craven heart. We must tear ourselves down to the very foundations before we can rebuild in the image of something completely profane or sacred, depending on both our outlook on things and the Kool-Aid we've been drinking. I've noticed how closely she holds her cards to her chest, something I can thoroughly relate to because this world can't stand long, and while we're hanging around, it's best we're comfortable with those we choose to hang out with and get to know intimately or otherwise. She told me she loves black licorice, which I can completely concur with, and has me now thinking about Black Jack chewing gum and how sad it is that such complexity is lost in our flavorless and threadbare modern times. I wonder if she was tempted in the least little bit to call, and how at ease I would be talking to a stranger who is quickly becoming a friend and a muse. This last poem, it's entitled Real Estate. Prime Real Estate. I can't stop thinking about your 38 C's. I know that's bad of me, but I'm a naughty boy who must repent. You wrap me around your littlest finger like a piece of blue string, and I'm feeling patriotic, and I'm feeling like going to the library and reading about Camp David. Something about your firebrand DNA that resisted all chemical reactions until we happened to meet and created something more lethal than gunpowder and more prolific than Jack Kerouac on a tear. Prime real estate and curb appeal are two very different things. Keep this in mind the next time you're reading to a bunch of dog paddlers who fear for their very souls when challenged by the real thing, and I'm not talking about Coca-Cola. Your poetry rocks my world, and I know how cliche that sounds. But I swear, when experiencing your voice ebbing and flowing like the waves on the cause and effect sea, it's like I've never been born and am 10,000 years old simultaneously. You are rock and roll, and I just wanted to tell you how much I admire the way you create the most inescapable and supple of cloud tattoos with your operatic word symphonies. I can't. I can't stop thinking about your universal mind. I know that's awfully high-minded of me, but am, I am an intellectually curious human being who never stops to think about the consequences. Something about everything about you. As I walk, let me walk close to thee. Thanks for listening. My name is Charles Cicirella. Charles Eric Cicirella. Thank you.